everyone. Good evening. It's July 7th? July 7/7. 7/7/2020. What time is it? The meeting is starting at 6:56. Unfortunately, we've had some technical challenges that hopefully we've overcome. But welcome to the Village of Walpole Beach Budget Workshop for our fiscal year 2021 budget. What I'd like to do now is ask everyone to stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, Diane, please let the record show that all members of council are present, including Councilwoman Radowski, who's attending remotely.
Yes, Mayor, I will.
Okay. Some information I'd like to share with everyone, since we are doing a virtual meeting, or I guess it's kind of a hybrid virtual meeting. The first thing is I want to explain the protocol for our mask wearing within this facility. Coming into the facility, walking around, if you come in and you're going from one place to another, you must have your mask on. But once you have seated, and you are seated in a situation where we have the social distance in between other people, you are allowed to take your mask off. If you decide to get up, as I said, to move around the room or go to the restroom, we ask that you put your mask back on and follow the same routine upon returning. On the up here in the dais, if you notice, we're not wearing our masks because we are all socially distanced from each other. So I don't want any confusion on what the ground rules are or whether or not we're being compliant. We are compliant. We do have our social distance. If any of us wanted to get up and walk around, we would also put our mask on as well. Okay? With that, since we do have attendees attending us remotely, I wanted to share some other information on how we are conducting the meeting. If you are speaking remotely or even here, please make sure you identify yourself with a name and address so that we know who's speaking. Once we begin taking public comment from the public, all right, there are three phases of public comment. One is I'm going to ask the village clerk, do we have any public comment that was submitted prior to the meeting? Because we're doing these virtual meetings, we are accepting comments from the public in advance of the meeting, and those comments are filtered into the village clerk. If there are any that came in, I will ask what she has, and we will hear those comments first. Secondly, I will then open it up for public comment from anyone who's attending the meeting tonight virtually. All right. As I said, the way to get recognized is do not use the chat feature because that won't be responded to. There is an item on your screen that should say to you to raise your hand. All right, and you click your raise your hand. That will be noted, and Ray Liggins, our manager, is tracking that, and he'll let me know that we've got someone who wants to speak, and he will recognize you. And as I said, just identify who you are with your name and address. And then the final portion of public comment will be taken from all of the people that are here tonight physically in the village hall who choose to speak. I already have one public comment card submitted. So that will be the last portion of our public comment process. Anyone have any questions on that? Because if that's the case, the first thing we do to open up this meeting, this is a budget workshop. We will be reviewing all of the items, hearing from staff on what our budget prospects look like and what we're projecting for the fiscal year 2021. But before we start receiving that report, I'm going to open it up for public comments. And the first thing I'd like to know is, Diane, do we have any comments that were submitted prior to the meeting?
Yes, we do, Mayor. I've received 3 emails, and I could read them into the record.
You want to read them to the record?
Yes.
Okay.
The first email I received references the traffic study for Madrid Street, access to State Road 7. Background. Number 1, the La Mancha subdivision was built prior to 1984, long before gated communities with controlled access were envisioned. Because La Mancha has multiple access points, it has always been a cut-through community with copious traffic problems. Over 20 years ago, signs were placed on Royal Palm Beach Boulevard to attempt to limit cut-through traffic at peak times. Residents have complained copious times to council and PBSO over decades regarding traffic problems. 2, in October 2009, This same issue was debated at length in a public forum. After hearing both sides of the issue, whether the community should safeguard its right to safety and quiet enjoyment or save commuters a couple of minutes' drive, the council unanimously voted that safety was more important. Access to State Road 7 was blocked with a berm except for pedestrian traffic, which has been constantly abused. Traffic improvements. 1. Since 2009, La Mancha's main exit, Ponce de Leon Boulevard at Okeechobee Boulevard, has been widened to 3 left turns. 2. The county recalibrated the traffic signal. 3. Traffic calming circles were added, 1 on Ponce de Leon and 2 on La Mancha Avenue, in an effort to slow down the traffic. 4. Recently, a right turn lane on Okeechobee Boulevard was constructed to improve traffic flow into the main entrance of the La Mancha subdivision. The concerns in 2009 and 2020, number 1, decrease in safety. Children play in their yards and adjacent streets and subdivisions. People walk, bike, and jog. There is a long history of serious traffic problems with speeding. A great amount of money has been spent on traffic improvements and increased PBSO patrols in an attempt to slow traffic speeds. 2, the Madrid Street Bridge is over 36 years old and was designed only to meet La Mancha residential traffic standards. 3, the interior streets have a 60 feet right-of-way from the center line. This width was based upon traffic loads and village code. Increased traffic loads may require widening the interior streets, i.e. Ponce de Leon and Madrid Street, and the taking of residents' property. Look at Lake Worth along east-west arterial streets, and you'll see that many, if not all the homes bordering these streets have had most of their front yards lost when taken to widen the streets. 4, increase in crime due to increase in traffic. Currently, there are 4 entrances and exits into the La Mancha subdivision. Ponce de Leon at 1 Okeechobee Boulevard and at 2 Royal Palm Beach Boulevard, 3 La Mancha Avenue at Royal Palm Beach Boulevard, and 4 Seville Avenue at Royal Palm Beach Boulevard. The connection with State Road 7 would allow rapid egress from the La Mancha subdivision, something a criminal would look at when planning a crime. 5, increase in traffic noise levels. And 6, change in property values as high traffic volume immediately in front of the homes decreases the residential value. While a traffic study has been conducted and this budget item is only for discussion as to what the next step may be, as a La Mancha resident since 1986, it is our opinion that the safety and quality of life in La Mancha would be negatively impacted if Madrid Street were connected to State Road 7 in any form. While it's been almost 11 years since the vote to keep Madrid closed, and we were told then the issue was resolved, some things may have changed. However, the traffic improvements listed above had made an impact, and we believe this issue is still resolved, and the budget item should be removed so that the money can be of greater use elsewhere in the 2021 budget. Thank you, Patrick Evans and Jackie Larson. The second email I received from Philip Karras. The Honorable Village Council. This is regarding traffic analysis on State Road 7 through La Mancha neighborhood. First off, I realize this budget workshop is part of the discussion process to look at the next fiscal year's village budget. That is all well and good. However, and this is a big however, just the inkling of looking at opening our quiet, safe, and much desired neighborhood directly into a major road, State Road 7, with no fair open advance notice has to raise the appearance. What are you trying to sneak through and why, even if you are not? I have not seen any initial analysis including what is actually being looked at. Shouldn't that be open and available to all, especially La Mancha residents? I am proud of the Village Council and Mayor who have proclaimed Royal Palm Beach a village of family neighborhoods for walking, bicycling, tricycling, running, wheelchairing, and just plain baby strolling through our parks, walkways, and bike paths throughout the village. So my simple question is, why on earth would you consider spending limited tax resources, yours and ours, on cutting through the middle of one of your most desired, multi-generational, and diverse neighborhoods directly into a major high-speed, heavy-traffic state road? because that is what it is. Because that is what is at stake here. Thank you for your tireless work on the council. Stay safe. Philip Karras, 278 Las Palmas Street. And I received one more email from Rodney Nutter. I've written comments for Madrid Street and State Road 7 connection, to whom it may concern. I, Rodney Nutter, would like to see this connection open, but my concern would be increased traffic of non-La Mancha residents and another exit and entrance for criminals. But it would be an additional opening in case there is other temporary access closures for La Mancha. My suggestion would be to not only allow the residents have a gate access to the connection with a barcode sticker, and if there is an issue with broken gates, then there can be license plate readers installed to back charge person responsible. Thank you, Rodney Nutter, 219 Ponce de Leon Street. And Mayor, we will need to check with the meeting organizer to see if the members of the public online wish to make a comment.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Is there anyone who's got their hands raised from the public who are remotely attending the meeting who would like to comment at this time?
Nobody at this time, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, we do have a public comment card for someone who's present, former Councilman David Swift. Come on up, or come back. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dave Swift. I live at 240 Ponce de Leon. I'd like to comment on tonight's budget item of a traffic study for the village. As a La Mancha resident for over 30 years, I'm not in favor of the village making a connection between Madrid and State Road 7 for all the reasons I've stated in the past. Plus the fact that we had a well-advertised public meeting where La Mancha residents voted not to open the connection. Now we learned that the council has agreed in a secret planning session to revisit this issue. It appears that the secret council planning session can now overturn a public vote taken by a previous sitting council. As a La Mancha resident, I find this troubling, if not illegal. That said, I'm not necessarily against the village spending money to conduct a traffic analysis of these impacts of implementing a morning right turn out only from Madrid to State Road 7. And I would also add, in coordination with installing an automatic gate that will open and close from 6 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock in the morning for security reasons. Such a scenario would be a good thing for La Mancha residents because all you would be doing is basically rerouting the same number of cars that enter and leave the neighborhood to about 4 different exits instead of 3, which would be a good thing. This would relieve the pileup of cars on the southern exit between 7 o'clock in the morning and 8:15. This would give folks who live in the north a quick exit to State Road 7. The problem always has been how many cars from neighborhoods west of La Mancha can be expected to use the Madrid State Road 7 connection in the morning. What is the expected morning traffic load from these communities? While I was a councilman, we had residents from Hidden Harbor, Saratoga, Madison Green demand that we open this exit even though they did not live in that neighborhood. Today we have New Belisara residents who also want to use this exit. At the time the council first discussed this issue, the county had done some preliminary traffic analysis of how many cars would be expected to flow from Crestwood Boulevard to Ponce de Leon to the State Road 7 connection. It was a ton of traffic. It was similar to what we were seeing at that time at Royal Palm Beach Boulevard. That was clearly unacceptable to that neighborhood, and that's why I voted against it. So the reason I am supporting this traffic study is what are the real traffic impact estimates of the project on the La Mancha neighborhood? Can we get a realistic data of what we are talking about so that this proposal could be intelligently discussed by all parties with best available data other than just feelings or best guesses? And also I would suggest you need to start talking about goals. What is the goal here? What are the upper limits for acceptability for this state road, this connection? And you also need to check with the school board about acceptable traffic impacts at HL Elementary School as this project gets implemented. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. We're going to have a discussion in the presentation, Ray, about this as a project in terms of something that we should have in the budget for next year.
We do have it in the capital budget to discuss at that time. I mean, if you want to do it beforehand, that's up to you guys. We do have Stan has his presentation, and then when he finishes his, we go to the capital, and it is within the capital where it's budgeted in the capital. And that's why it's in front of you. David's been on the council for 30 years. He knows we don't have secret meetings. A secret meeting would be illegal, and he knows that too. So
It wasn't
our
secret
strategic planning session is not a secret meeting. It is an advertised public meeting, and he is welcome at those meetings. And at those meetings is where this came about, and it got put in last year's budget. The reason we have it to discuss this budget workshop is because it's in this year's. It's still in this year's budget, and I need direction from council whether to keep it in or take it out.
All right, let me.
I think the decision of doing it is not the decision for tonight. The decision for tonight is, do we leave it in the budget or take it out of the budget?
Okay, and with that said, since all of the comments that we've heard so far are related to this project, this issue, I want to address it. I want to comment on it. First of all, I was part of the council, 11 years ago when we made it what I thought was an intelligent decision, and we listened to the people, and it was clear that we would be disrupting the neighborhood by having all this traffic flowing through that neighborhood. Over those last 11 years, we've had 80% turnover on this council, and I'm the only one around who was part of that initial decision. My decision then was it was not something we should do to disrupt that neighborhood, and that's still my decision. I have not changed one iota in that regard. However, honoring new members on our council, the question did come up during strategic planning, and the question was asked, well, can we at least take a look at what the traffic impacts are today versus what they were 11 years ago? So we said, okay, let's get a study. Let's see what the numbers look like today. And when we get the numbers, I explained how it would not be a 1, 2, 3 process. That we had a very extensive review process with the community. We had special meetings at the cultural center to house all of the people who wanted to opine on this. And that's where we are. Well, I got to tell you something. This has been an incredible year, as we all know. And my personal feeling about this is we should not even deal with this at all, and we shouldn't put it in the budget to do anything with it. We should just put this away, and if we ever get through Coronas in a year and a half or whatever it takes, if members on the council want to bring it up again, bring it up again. That's just your prerogative. But right now, I would vote to say, let's just forget about this right now and not even put it in the budget. So with that, I'll look for comments from members on council. Oh, I don't see the light. Go ahead, Richard. Go ahead.
Okay. My understanding of the entire Madrid Street connection was it was a solution for a problem. And the problem was the beyond excessive traffic they were getting at, I believe, Ponce and Okeechobee, where, I mean, people were battling every morning trying to get out of there. And one of the possible solutions to this was a connection at Madrid Street. However, things happened subsequently, and with the State Road 7 extension, we really have seen, if I'm correct, the village manager, reduction in the logjam that we had at Ponce and Okeechobee, as well as what we had on Royal Palm Beach Boulevard coming down. So my understanding is for number one, didn't we get numbers? I mean, the numbers are, if we do the right out only, it was over 4,000 new trips a day. And if we did a left in, it was, almost another 4 to 5. At this point, to me, I can't say never for the future, but if we don't have the problem we need to remedy by attaching Madrid Street through, and personally for me, the only option would be a right out option, because 4,000 something cars a day is really going to transform that neighborhood and that street. So I could see potentially sometime in the future if it's necessary to do, but I agree with the mayor. At this point, I don't necessarily know if we need it in the budget. I'm fine with it being out of the budget. I'm fine with it being in the budget, but directing staff, we're not going forward with the project. Either one's an option for me, but at this point, it doesn't seem like something that's necessary to put in the budget, I guess, my point, because we're only on budget things. So that's my budget.
Who's next? Selena?
So I would agree with both of what you all just said with regard to the urgency or lack thereof at this point in time. But we all know that Westlake has come out of the ground, so are a lot of the other Western communities developments. It is going to bring more traffic on some of these same roads, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if the demand doesn't arise again as a result of things not necessarily just inside Royal Palm Beach, but outside Royal Palm Beach, which generates traffic through Royal Palm Beach. So for the time being, I'm okay with pulling it out of the budget, but with the idea that at some point it might be worthwhile doing again.
Well, we can always look at things down the road. Selena? Dan, you go next.
So I live not only in La Mancha, on La Mancha Avenue, 8 houses north of Madrid. So if this impacts anybody, it's me. I was at that meeting 11 years ago. We purchased our house in 2009, and at the time, there was a portable barricade in the opening. It was open, there was access, because right now, motorcycles and bicycles do use that. So just because there's a fence right there now does not mean that it's not stopping traffic, because I've seen motorcycles drive up on the sidewalk and right out through that entrance, or that opening. I don't think that portable barricade that I can push out of the way stopped all of the gangs coming in and destroying the neighborhood, because that's a pretty powerful barricade, and maybe PBSO can look into those. So when you look at it, though, I struggle to get out of La Mancha in the morning when you're going out. And I've sat at that light on Ponce and Okeechobee three turnovers before, just to try and get out of there. Not to mention that to get from Barcelona onto Ponce, you have to wait because everyone's coming from Ponce, heading down that way anyway. As far as Westlake and the northern community areas or further west, there's 60th that is absolutely beautiful, that goes right on to State Road 7. Perhaps we can talk to those residents and see how. Well, what you're saying is that you're further out, is that you have all those properties that are north. So 60th Street goes from Royal Palm Beach Boulevard over to State Road 7. It's an entranceway. I've taken it both ways. I've driven State Road 7 north, taken it into 60th, and come back into Royal Palm Beach Boulevard, and I've taken it the other way out. Every time I've done it, I've not seen excessive traffic. So those people living north of Royal Palm will take 60th. The issue is getting past the high school, and sometimes it takes me 20 minutes to get from 314 La Mancha Avenue to to State Road 7 and Okeechobee, and that's because you get stuck at the school traffic as well. There are 4 lights that are there that you still have to go through. So the other option is when the roundabout is there also, is if we put La Mancha straight through to Okeechobee, which would add another controlled intersection. So if you do go out, you're now hitting all those lights as well. So if the real issue is to get out and bypass the school, a Madrid opening is the only way to do it.
You're suggesting exit only.
I'm not suggesting anything until I get more information. I'm saying is, when it's frustrating for me to get out, it's very, go ahead.
Have you all received the report?
Yeah.
Oh, so you know the numbers.
I do, but
okay.
I'm not making a suggestion right now until we go through and have more of a conversation with it.
Well, the conversation we're having now is whether or not we really want to keep this in the budget for 2021. It can be put in the it can be looked at after this fiscal year, but we're saying the determination tonight is keeping the budget, not keeping the budget. In terms of
But we're just doing the study, whether we want to do the study.
study's been done.
So you want to, that's what I'm saying. So at
Ray,
this
am
point,
I incorrect in that? The study's been done.
but we have not, we still
The
would have a
report-
public forum and a meeting for all the residents.
No,
to
we
come.
haven't made. It hasn't been agendaed.
Hasn't
no.
been on the agenda.
Right.
You want me to go through my presentation that gives a little bit of the history and goes through this and then
If you think it'll be useful, sure.
if you
But
want to,
before
or
you
we
do
can
it-
wait till the Capitol, or I can just go through this right now and give you all the facts.
Give me 1 minute. If Selena's done, I want to give Jan a chance.
Okay.
Okay, Jan, you're on.
Okay, can y'all hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So So this launch of
Can
Madrid,
you guys do something?
Madrid opening has been something that has come up on the Citizen Summit year after year after year. And I think we finally got a point to where we could look at a study. And I think for all the residents who want to open, who may not be at council meetings saying they want to open, I have heard them time and time again, when are we going to do the study so that we can look at the traffic? One of the things that the council to that is on La Mancha Avenue, it is a 25-mile-an-hour road. And I get passed once a week by someone speeding down that road. And it may be if that opening is there on the grid, we would cut down on the speeders. And so the pros and cons to both, but I think for the residents who have wanted to at least study it, for years at the Citizen Summit, I would agree to keep it in the budget.
Okay. What you guys think of it?
Can we somehow try that again, Mr. Mayor? I couldn't make out what
Yeah, it was a
Jan
little-
was saying.
a little garbled. So
How about on the phone?
can you call in? Because for some reason it's coming across a little garbled. Yes. Yeah, we're gonna try to get you on the phone, okay? You gonna call her, Diane?
She was on the phone.
Can you call?
That was the phone? What happened to the phone?
Yeah.
Okay. Thumbs up in the budget, thumbs down, not in the budget? Thumbs up, you want it in the budget.
Yeah,
You want it in the budget. That's your vote,
in
okay.
the budget,
We got that.
in the budget.
Where you're on taking it out of the budget for now? That's one, take out, one in. I vote take out, that's two. Wish you,
I am for taking it out, but I'd like to hear what Jan had to say and her reasons
All right, well-
for wanting it.
well, that's okay, but we got the final, so and Selena? Okay, so we have a straw count of 3-2 to not keep it in the budget. So,
For this year.
for this year. This is not a forever. And I will say, I think there's merit to looking at the option of write out only. All right? Because that was one of the things we spoke about that. I don't know if you remember this, but I was kind of raising my hand saying, remember we had 3 options? And I said, how about a 4th option? How about a write out only? That didn't get any traction that night because we had all these people there and they were entrenched. But so I just want to put that on the table that we certainly should look at that. And I think the write out option does have some merit to look at. I just want to say one other thing because one of the comments that was submitted from the public was about putting a gate up so that only residents can come in and out. That is illegal. We cannot do that. That is a public street. It was paid for by public dollars. It's not a private street, so we can't close it off and say only certain people can go in and then certain people can use it. Now, the question I do have, and you don't have to answer it now, is does it make sense to put a gate in if it's an exit only that you only can use it certain times? All right? I don't know. That's a different question. I'm not asking you to answer it now, unless you know the answer.
It would create a backlog at that exit.
Why would it create backlog? It's only, oh, no,
Because
no, no, no.
fourth-
He's saying open it for certain hours,
Oh,
not
oh,
every
and
trip.
close it at night.
Close it at night, like when there's no traffic. Was that the point? I think that was, yeah. Which that might, if that's not illegal, that makes a little sense. It's like, okay, the road is closed from midnight
Right.
to 5 a.m. or something like that.
There's been other places that have done that.
But
that
that would
closed-
not, that
closed
would
public
be
roads
legal
at
to
the
do
middle
with
of the
that.
night.
That would be a legal thing we could do, is what I'm asking.
There are other public roads in Palm Beach County that have done that.
Okay. All right, so let's put that into the hopper as something as part of the consideration.
I just have a question for the village manager then. So, just for clarification, so if you're not going to give your, I'm assuming because we've already voted, you're not going to give your presentation of your notes that you've had for that topic, correct?
No, we won't need to do that.
won't need to
We
do
can-
Correct. So,
We'll skip that second and just take it out of the budget in the next printing of the budget.
thank you. The other part, though, is there was a significant financial difference, though, was it in doing it now? And because of the expansion of State Road 7, where going up to 4 lanes, is that going to hinder where if we do decide to wait and do it in a few years, I thought there was the difference of 30,000 versus quite a bit.
There's probably at least that difference. What the difference is if we gave the DOT an answer tonight that we wanted the road open, then they would put it within their plans of State Road 7, and they would construct it. Now, when they're going to construct State Road 7, if we get them the information before they construct State Road 7, they can do it. If we do it, if they build the road and we haven't made that decision, then we have to do it, and it would be our cost. So, but it's not. In my opinion, it's such a significant change to the area that whether it's 30 grand or 100 grand, the decision to do it and do it at the right time is probably more important than worrying whether DOT can do it for us or we do it at some other time in the future.
Okay, so are we done with this topic? I think we are. Thank you. And thank you for your input from everyone. With that, we're going to turn over the agenda. Next agenda item is the budget message from our village manager.
Good evening. Sorry about that slow start. Our first go-to webinar worked out so much better than our second one. Wish that wouldn't work that way, but we're up and running, and hopefully everybody can hear us. This is a unique budget hearing. It's unique in the sense that we're doing it as go-to webinar, and we have so few people here. It is a budget that is affected by COVID-19. I remember making a presentation back to the council back in March, April, about the effects of COVID-19 and the effects that we think that may be on the budget. Everything I said then is still here, and that is the budget that's in front of you. It does have 15 less people in it. The reason for that is because of COVID-19, we do not have any events that attract large groups of people, and our senior program is not meeting and is not active like they were in the past. So those employees have been let go and are not part of this budget. This budget is less than this current year's budget because of those changes. We're still in the business of providing services and facilities to create an aesthetically pleasing, active, connected community. I will say that this budget has a big effect on the active and the connected part. It's not as easy as it was in the past.
What was that statement you just made? What is that called? The statement you just made.
Our mission statement.
That's our mission statement.
Yes.
Very good. Okay.
That's our mission statement.
Okay.
Does not mean that we still can't work aggressively on the aesthetically pleasing part, and your budget does have that in there. As you know, we have several different funding sources. While our revenue stream did get affected as far as sales tax, the sales tax that state revenue sharing, and the gas taxes, and some of those others, our impact fees that we've collected to date, and the sales tax that we've collected do fund much of our capital budget, and that is in there. I do think this is a good time to continue to work on your facilities and continue to improve them with those restricted funds that you have. Those funds cannot be used for operating, so they have to be used on capital. And doing them during these times maximizes the number of jobs out there. So this is a good time to keep those projects going. With that, I'll turn it over to our finance director, who will go through the overall parameters of the budget.
Stan, you're on.
And then we'll go to each. We have the ability to go to each department, and departments answer any questions you may have, and then to the capital budget.
You're trying to make it flash on the screen? It's not on our screens. It's on the other screens.
It's on every other screen.
What? This thing here? Got it. Okay.
There we go.
The total budget proposed for this fiscal year coming is $50.8 million. General operating is 49%. Capital projects are 44%. Reserves are 4%, and the stormwater utilities are 3%. The budget highlights this year: property values are up again at 8.2%. We're maintaining the tax rate of $1.92 per thousand. Staff changes are in the city clerk's office, community development, planning and zoning, public works, and parks and recreation. Use of $3 million reserve to balance the budget. Now, we got some good news about that $3 million reserve. When we put together the final budget, that number is going to be about $400,000 less. One of the items that affect that the sheriff was really good enough to remove the increase for this year's budget. We will have no increase for this year's budget. The final DR 420 for the assessed valuation to the village went up, which will provide us with another $20,000. And there is a couple of revenues and an expenditure that will net out the difference to that increase, which will be seen in the final budget. As
do one thing really quick. Well, make sure you share.
What happened? That's what it is. It's Tuesday night. That's the problem.
And as usual in the past, we've incorporated all the strategic plan initiatives in the budget. Our ad valorem tax overview, as I stated, property values are up 8.2%, from $2.9 billion to $3.2 billion, an increase of $238 million.
Stanley?
And as
Stanley, just a quick question. The $3.2 billion, is that a high water mark?
Is that what?
Yes, it is. And the 2.95 was the first time we passed the high from the 2008 recession.
So it's the second high water mark.
Yes, it's the
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay.
Yes, it is. And as usual, we are maintaining our operating millage at the rate of 1.2 mils per thousand. That 8.2% is incorporated in this table. The value of property have increased to $156,000, $219,000, and $283,000, who will pay $204, $324, and $447, respectively. Our general fund is $24.9 million. Property taxes, 23%. Other taxes and fees, 21%. Licenses and permits, 12%. Intergovernmental revenue, 15%. Charges for services, 1%. Fines and forfeitures, 2%. Miscellaneous, 2%. And current year fund balance is 24%. On the expenditure side, personal services, 43%. Contractual services, 39%. The contractual services is primarily the police contract, so effectively personal services is close to 82%. Other charges and services at 15%. Commodities at 3%. Other operating expenditures, department capital outlay, and grants and aid, all less than 1%. Continuing our expenditure summary, merit adjustments are programmed at an average of 2.25%. A cost of living adjustment of 2% is included based on the 12-month running average from April 19 to March 20, and medical insurance cost premiums will be based on market projections.
Just a quick question. And now anticipation on that is we're going to stay flat, you think?
Yes.
We are? Okay. Good.
Position reclassifications in the village clerk, community development, and public works department. Administrative assistant 2 has been changed to senior administrative assistant. In human resources, the human resources director has been changed to director of human resources and risk management. In public works, a general maintenance worker 1 has been reclassified to a general maintenance worker 2. Position additions this year is in the Public Works Department, a custodian. Position deletions in Planning and Zoning, the Development Review Coordinator. In Code Enforcement, the Code Enforcement Inspector 3. In Engineering, a part-time intern. In Parks and Rec, a program supervisor, 2 facility attendants, part-time program
That's because Lou just walked in.
part-time program coordinator in the seniors program, a part-time administrative assistant 1, 4 program coordinators, 4 part-time facility attendants, and that represents the general fund. In the stormwater utility, we have $1.3 million. Stormwater utility fee represents 80% of revenue, and fund balance represents 17%. On the expenditure side, personal services at 52%, contractual services at less than 1%, other charges and services 37%, commodities at 3%, other operating expense at less than 1%, and transfers at 8%. And that represents the stormwater utility. Capital improvement funds, total this year $24.5 million. Recreation facilities is 7%. Beautification is less than 1%. Impact fee fund is 20%. Sales surtax fund, 48%. General capital improvements, 16%. Utility, less than 1%. And reserves at 9%. And that, Mr. Mayor, is a summary of the 2021 budget.
Okay. Do you have any special comments you'd like to make about it?
Sir,
You feel good about it?
I feel fine.
Okay. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. Okay, next, we're supposed to have the department directors present their operating budgets, starting with Village Council. That would be you?
I'll do the village council one. I would like to make one correction
Okay.
that has been pointed out at the previous budget workshops, but made it into this one. Royal Palm Beach High School project graduation does not need to be budgeted. That's not a program anymore, so I will be taking that out
Thank you.
of the council budget.
So what page should we be on? 32?
We have the village manager budget on page 35. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. We'll go back to village council.
Very small budget.
Is there any comments or questions on the village council budget?
I do have one. Thank you for asking. Under grants and aids, thank you for removing that line item. The other one that I have a question on that I still always have a question on is the Relay for Life. So my concern is just because we are putting this in the budget and this is one nonprofit that we help versus all of the many nonprofits that are in Royal Palm Beach and that our residents are involved in. So I still have a concern on it being targeted as just one. I know we started working with the Mayor's Golf Tournament as a fundraiser to use for scholarships, as well as the quarter auctions and other things that Parks and Recs are doing to help us raise money. But if we could use that money for donations instead of coming it out as a specific line item for one particular organization.
We talked about, did we talk about this last year?
We did. And
Where did we wind up? I don't recall.
well,
It's still in.
Well,
okay.
we didn't make profit on the golf tournament because it
I
rained
know.
and we had about a 60% showing. So
We're not budgeting for one for this coming.
we do have a golf tournament scheduled at Madison Green for January 30th, I believe, is the date. Is the Mayor's Golf Tournament.
When's the decision date on whether or not we can do that?
It'll be probably 2 to 4 weeks before the 30th.
Okay, so we got some time. My thought on that is probably not going to happen for a myriad of reasons. Just the appropriateness given what's going on, but we got time to rationalize that.
But what we have talked about is using the Mayor's Golf Tournament and using the garage sale as fundraisers for whatever you wanted to use that for. We haven't budgeted to give any money away because we were going to wait until we had a revenue before we did that. We just unfortunately didn't have the revenue this year.
How much money are we talking about? $1,000?
Right now we have $1,000 in the
We cut it last year.
Relay
It was
for Life.
two.
That's right, we did.
Did we cut it last year to one? We cut it. What did we cut it to one?
Yes.
Why don't we redesignate that $1,000 to fund? Let me ask a question first. Do we normally put in place a village team to represent the village? And
We don't have a top-down team. What we have is from the staff. If they want to have a team, we have supported them with these dollars.
all right, I don't know what you mean by we don't have a top down.
Well, we don't. Well, we don't.
Force people to do it.
Right.
It's a volunteer.
Right.
That's a good way to put it. We have a volunteer team, right?
If there's interest among staff to have a team and do it, then we've done it. And there has been interest. Rob Hill and his group have done it for the last at least 10 years, I think.
Okay. I know Rob Hill's been out there. The whole premise, and I'm going way back. I was involved with this Relay for Life thing so long ago. But the premise of the Relay for Life is to have these teams formed representing different organizations. And that team are the ones who go out to solicit contributions to support the effort. So I would suggest maybe what we could consider, and because I think there's a valid point that's being raised, and why we picking this charitable organization to donate dollars to, and there are a lot of other charitable organizations out there, and we don't do that. So perhaps we could have that $1,000 earmarked to support this volunteer team that represents the village, to encourage them to be able to go out and raise funds, to be donated for the cause. What do you think?
Would we be able to do that for all employees that go out and do the same thing? So since we have so many that are involved in...
That's a good question, but that's why I said you got to understand the structure of the Relay for Life is all about these teams coming together representing an organization. All right? So we're going to be represented, and if we have a group of volunteers who want to field, you have to actually register your team with Relay for Life. That's a different model than any of the other charitable operations.
No, because it's...
So you're saying you don't want to give anything to the people?
I am saying that according to what you're saying is that the Barkin Bowl for animal cancer does the same exact thing. Susan G. Komen does the exact same thing. What I'm saying is that, yes, they do. They all say, go out, get your team.
But we don't field a team for that. That's my point.
So, and my point is that when we do have, if you want to look at it as staff members who do it, I think it's amazing that Rob and his team and Chris Wax, they have a team. They do an
So-
amazing job.
What you're suggesting is if we had a group of employees for the village who said, we'd like to form a team to support this endeavor.
Childhood diabetes.
No.
Yeah. No, for 18.
No, listen, I don't want them, they're the only folks that's forming a team. If the whole model
Whatever.
if that's how they
nonprofit.
do it, they form teams,
Mhm.
all right,
Mhm.
to go out to do the raising. And we had, staff come up and say they want to put a team together.
We will support them just like Relay for Life.
I think from a policy standpoint, we can't be two different things. Either we are or we're not. So
So
yeah.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
getting at.
Yeah, policy-wise, that makes sense to me as well. The challenge would be, so how much money are we talking about? How would we go about actually allocating and doing that? Because we really haven't ever done that with anything
But-
other than Relay for Life. So, I mean, we could take a look at that, see if there's a way to do it.
This is
Put aside
definitely-
a pot of money for that purpose,
Make a contingency budget.
that kind of a thing. Yeah.
Contingency.
So, but we'd have to have some sort of a system to be able to identify.
That makes
Group
sense. I
two.
mean, whatever we're going to do, we want to be consistent. And that's the problem we have now. We're
Right.
not being consistent with,
Right.
It's the same thing when they do fundraisers over at the high school and they form teams to raise money and they come to us and ask us for money. So it's
No, it's not the same thing. You got to remember, it's different. If you've got a business, a company, right, an agency, right. If they are saying we're forming a team representing agency XYZ, representing company ABC, but that's got to be the model that charitable organization is really adopting. I have never seen that kind of model other than Relay for Life, the way they raise their funds.
So that's what I'm saying. There needs to
That's
be
the only
some
one I've seen
criteria
like that.
for determining
Because they're
that.
formal teams, they're registered, they're actually registered as a team. All the people on the team have to be identified, and they are given, that team has a goal in terms of what they're going to go out and raise for the charitable organization, in this case, Relay for Life. So it's not a model that I've seen repeated. That's what I'm trying to say. So I tell you what, if we do this, we'll be open if another situation's presented to us to look at it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm asking.
Well, I'm going to go back to what I said a moment ago. We need a criteria to say, yeah, that qualifies, and so let's go and support it. One way to go at it would be say it needs to be like Relay for Life with all of the different characteristics you just mentioned.
Okay, so
But that is a very different approach. You remember how we got there? I mean, it was a community activity back when we were doing it over at
I
Royal
remember
Palm Beach High School.
every city had their own Relay for Life program, and it was.
Yeah, and we
It's
were,
a different model. A little
we
bit it's different now, but it is what it is.
and we had the opportunity to be much more engaged, much more supportive. It was right here on our home turf, and of course that's changed. And so-
Janet, you want to chime in on this? You got any thoughts? Oh, it's gotten worse.
Super hard to hear you. I can't really hear you.
Okay, I was asking if you had any comments on this topic. Okay, we're definitely having technical difficulties tonight. Can we do hand signs or something? You got a notepad? This is all right. So do we table this conversation until and ask the manager to draft something for us that we can say this is what needs to be needed? I threw one at you. I know.
Well, we do have this conversation
Every year.
every strategic plan session too, and we do have a lot of rules we have to follow with the ethics commission as it relates to teams and fundraising and all that
That's correct.
stuff. I mean, what this was well, everybody knows how this evolved, and Rob and Todd and Chris Wax. I mean, they ended up raising so much money that this became part of the fundraising that the Cancer Society did. I mean,
I gotta be honest.
they
with
probably
you.
did 5-6 times this amount.
They do.
ended up
They do
turning
a great
over.
job. I don't know how that happened because I remember originally that's the way it was structured. It was funding to support our team. It wasn't funding that we were just donating directly.
I'm fine with that. I'm just saying is when there's another staff member that comes to us with that, if we have that in place
And
as
what I'm,
well, and
and
that's
what I'm
fine.
suggesting is we ask the manager to draft something some guidelines for us to be able to follow, so we're not making it up as we go along. Yeah? That's what I'm saying. Well, I'm suggesting to stay in the budget, but it be allocated differently, and that is a direct donation, but to support our team. I guess at least we're out of the where you said we were before. No, we're not. No, this is very different. We're not going to be writing a check to Relay for Life. There's going to be money available for whoever that Rob, if he's still running the team, to use for them to do the things they need to do. One of the things they do is we have a presence at the event, and they cook out, and
Buy lotto
money.
tickets.
I'm sorry, you want to say something?
That was one of the fundraising things they've done over the years is a board of lotto tickets. You would buy raffle tickets for. So.
Yeah. Okay. We okay with that?
Anything else in the council budget? In the council budget?
No, we went over this
Okay.
major issue here. Let's move forward.
I'll do the next
Okay.
the next three here. In the village manager's budget, I did have an increase in other services, professional, and what that is mainly for printing. We are using Elliott to do two newsletters and the magazine
Voice.
once a year, and it's for printing those. The increase is for printing those. It's the other decrease that we had in the budget was on election expenses. We don't have a special election we need to plan for this next year, so that reduced that line item. In the police budget, that remained the same. Originally, the sheriff was looking at a 1% increase. With all that has gone on the past couple months, he did go to a 0% interest for all his city contracts. So that number is showing the 1%, but it will be modified to show the $8,098,508. Legal, we did increase a little bit. The legal, we have legal that covers our business, and then we have legal that covers the development review process. Usually the fluctuation is the development review. When development review is low, the number is down, but the revenue for it is also down, and it works. But we adjusted it to be more consistent with the past few year collections in legal. I don't know, is Eric Coleman here?
Yes, he is. Now would be the time to introduce Eric Major Coleman.
Yes.
I'll give an intro for you before you start. That okay?
Yes, sir.
I think all of you have been briefed already by the village manager about the question of the village considering the inclusion of body cameras for the police force that's under contract for the village. This has been an issue that it's been in the news. Other cities have been talking about this. It's been an issue that the sheriff has gone on record a few times by indicating that he supports the notion of having body cams in place for the PDSO, but for him it's a funding issue, and we'll hear more about that, hopefully get an update from the major in his comments, but I hope you've all been briefed that what the notion is that as Royal Palm Beach District 9 is we're looking for District 9 to have the body cams, and we're not looking for any handouts, and the village manager has been working feverishly on getting what the numbers are. We get numbers all over the place, but tonight we may be making a decision to ask the village manager to put funds into the budget for the purpose of the acquisition and activation of body cams. That's the backdrop, okay? So I just want to kind of explain how we got here and how we wound up with the Major being with us this evening. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be back. It's hard to believe it's been 14 years since we
Really?
merged with the village.
From the lieutenant time?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. I'm much heavier and much grayer.
Yeah, no, you look pretty
years
good. You
ago,
look
but,
okay.
And wiser.
Yes, hopefully. But yes, it is an agency priority to have body-worn cameras. The sheriff from day one has never opposed them. In the early stages, he did want to let the technology develop the policy and the law around them, as they were relatively new. Came up again in 2016. The sheriff looked at it and brought together all his subject matter experts, and they came up with a price, I believe, about $19 million to make this work. The cameras themselves are relatively inexpensive. We figure we'll need about 3,000 of them to outfit our law enforcement and corrections folks, and also offer some replacements, because there's repair and maintenance that goes on with these. But the real reoccurring costs in these is, in the state of Florida, we have a broad public records laws, as you know. We're also a large agency. I think last year we answered 1.2 million calls for service. We had, I think it was 170,000 traffic stops that were conducted in Palm Beach County. We made 17,000 arrests. So how this comes into play is, let's say that officers are on the scene when an arrest is made, and there are maybe 3 officers there, and they spent an hour on that arrest. Well, before that case is filed, as Mr. Valentis knows, we have to provide discovery. So we have to provide the videos from those body cameras to the state attorney and defense attorney when we file that case. Well, there are many public exemptions that go along with those body camera videos, like places that are protected, where people have an expectation of privacy, the inside of their homes. We could have crime victims of sexual assaults. We could have children. We could have personal information. So it's basically a minute-by-minute review of any video. So if we had a big crowd in here and something happened, and there were 3 or 4 officers and we had to arrest somebody, somebody would have to sit down and review that and redact certain information from that video. So that's where the real reoccurring cost is. We've had cameras in our cars since, I believe it was 2010. We also have cameras on our tasers. So the sheriff, our camera in the cars are aging out. We're going to need to upgrade them, so that is part of that cost. And I think what he's looking at is to have a good system, one that will last us many years, have some good redaction tools, have the ability to interact with our taser cameras, our car cameras, and the body cameras to give that the best picture possible of an incident. He is working with the county commission and the county administrator. There are some funds that were earmarked for the sheriff's office in the coming years for some technology upgrades. So I believe what he's asked is that those funds be made available much sooner so that we can kick this project off and get these cameras on as quickly as possible. While we would certainly welcome any donation from the village, but he really can't have cities participating individually or buying, piecemealing technology. The servers alone are just going to be millions of dollars, because some agencies, smaller agencies, might be able to use a cloud-based system. I think the sheriff's preference is for us to maintain on our own servers this amazing amount of data. We're also required to keep those videos, if they have no evidentiary value, for 90 days. So just think about how much video a guy or girl could generate out here on a daily basis. So that's the challenges. I think the sheriff and we all recognize that there's huge public interest, in the interest of transparency, that we want to get these cameras, and I think I'm pretty confident it's going to happen. I've heard some of the county commissioners comment that they're in support, so I think they're going to get it done.
Okay, I wanted to clarify a couple of points, though. Our notion of saying, look, we don't want to wait for the rest of the world, we don't want to wait for committees, we don't want to wait for, political things that are happening between the county and the sheriff.
Sure.
What we were saying was, for District 9, tell us what the numbers really are, because numbers all over the place. And clearly there's infrastructure, no question about that. There's a protocol on how that all gets done and parsed out in terms of public information requirements and the judicial process requirements. But our notion was never that we would have our own system. This is your system that you would put in just for this village, and whatever infrastructure that was needed to do that, and you would be the one determining what technology you would use, what cloud models, whatever that infrastructure looked like. That would be, you would do that, and it would be part of an infrastructure that then, if you decided to do it more and open that up for the rest of the county, you would just augment that infrastructure that's put in place already for us. So that was our thinking process going into it. All right, I just wanted to clear. We weren't thinking about we're going to have our own. No, it's not our. It's your infrastructure. We're just looking to say we're not going to sit here and let District 9 go unattended, because of funding. That's the issue. We're really to step up for that. Now, having said that, I just want to make sure I'm clear about the message you delivered this evening. And the message is, the sheriff would like to move forward with this on a county basis. He's approaching, I don't know if he has already, but he's going to approach the county commissioners and say that he's got funds coming in for technology capabilities downstream. Can the county advance the funding now so he can move forward now with the body cam project for the whole county? Did we hear that correctly?
Yes. Those are the conversations that are taking place now.
With that, you finished your comments? Because I like to
Yes,
open
sir.
it up to let members of the council, if they have any questions. Go ahead.
My only thought is what the major said just makes sense. I understand. I mean, you can't get into a situation where we're saying, okay, Royal Palm's going to pony up $10 million and we want cameras, but Lake Worth Beach, they can't afford it this budget year, so they can't have it. But Wellington's going to get super cameras because they've got more money. So you don't want that situation, and it's reasonable to me, and it makes a lot of sense. And I appreciate the sheriff going forward with going to the county commission, because I know there's some potential pitfalls, but overall, I think it's just a better tool to have, because for the criminal justice system, it's going to help because you're going to have good evidence and video, and it'll protect some of the officers about some of the fraudulent claims and nonsense that are going on. So.
I'm glad you mentioned the dollars issue, because that's going to put some context around that as well. As I said, the manager and I have been going over the numbers for several weeks, and across the country, and numbers. And let me give you these bounds. We believe the numbers could be somewhere as low as $2,000 per officer, and that includes acquisition and ongoing support. Or it could be as high. If you took the number that we've gotten from Sheriff Bradshaw, I think the number was $19 million, and then you divide 3,000 law enforcement officers into $19 million, it comes out to $6,334 per officer. So if we took that number there, and we said times 50, which is the number of officers we would have using it in the village, that number comes out to $317,000. Okay, so we're not talking millions here. What I'm suggesting is the number is somewhere between $6,334 and $2,000. If it's a high, it's the high. If the number is $317,000 for us, that's okay. That's what just want to put context around that. We're not trying to do something, go into something where it's going to cost more money than reality is. Just going with the numbers that have been published nationally and looking at the numbers that we've gotten from the sheriff's office. Those are the bounds. That's where we are. All right. Selena?
So along those lines, and thank you very much for clarifying quite a bit of it and for everything that you guys do out there. So thank you, and especially District 9 does an amazing job. For clarification, though, is this an all or nothing? So, for instance, are we waiting for the county commissioners to make their decision? If other municipalities are unable to participate, where is that as far as when you come down to? Sorry, half of them can do it, but for those that you have, the other half can't afford to do it. County commission's only giving us X, so instead of our numbers with District 9, is it a pool? I don't know if you have those answers.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm really prepared to speak on one. I think the goal would be to outfit every officer with that. We don't want to certainly pick winners and losers, and some of our more challenged communities aren't as well off as a Wellington or a Royal Palm Beach, so we want to make sure that they are afforded the same transparency. But to your point, Mayor, with the numbers are a little bit different. Obviously, acquisition of all this equipment and these servers in year one will be one cost, and that's probably the higher end. But there is those reoccurring costs of those 10 to 30. We don't even know 30 people that may have to sit and just review videos after videos after videos on a daily basis to get them ready.
Absolutely correct. There is a reoccurring cost factor that has to be factored into this, and somewhere it's got to be budgeted every year.
Absolutely.
But one other point I just want to share with the council as well is there is a revenue stream that is created because this falls on, when you have to take video and reproduce it and give it to it's a public service, public information request, and we have the ability to recoup the cost for fulfilling those requirements. So there is something coming back that should feed and help support what we call the ongoing maintenance requirement. No?
There is. For the information we give to the state attorney and the public defender, we cannot charge.
No.
So that's 17,000 arrests right there, right out the door. And I believe our numbers are first half hour is we don't charge anything above that. I believe is $31 an hour. So I don't really think that.
Well, you got to
fully
review
recoups,
You got to review that policy, sir.
Yeah, and I don't know if we're limited by state statute
Okay.
About
All right.
that.
Well, I understand. I want to give
So
Councilman
just one comment.
Vice Mayor Randall.
One of the benefits of us having a contract with PBSO is we're able to access resources that we couldn't afford as an individual municipality. I look at this as kind of that same thing. This is another feature of this centralized capability that we are able to tap into in the long run. So, I'm really pleased the sheriff is supporting it. Hope it can make a good enough argument to move that thing forward as rapidly as possible. Sounds like the argument of having the money in a few years, moving it up a couple of years under the current circumstances might actually carry the day. So hopefully that'll be the case.
And it's always about competing interests, as you know. I think in his goals, he really wanted to add about 100 deputies. I don't know if you know the growth that is taking place in the south part of the county.
100 new deputies in this budget cycle. Yes.
Tremendous. And same that we're experiencing here in the western communities. So to try to keep up with some of that, but this is obviously a greater priority right now, and that's the direction we're going to go.
I'm going to ask you a tough question.
Okay.
What's the timeline we're looking at if the county commissioners support the request from the sheriff?
I would really be guessing if I tried to do that, and I really don't want to do that. I would think we could do something in a year or two. But one advantage the sheriff did do by maybe not being the first in on this is the technology has improved dramatically.
Right. No.
And the efficiency and everything else. And so I think they can get this moving relatively quickly, and I think that would be his goal.
What is it you would like to see this council do this evening regarding this subject?
Regarding this item?
Yes.
Just table it for now, and hopefully we'll have some additional information here in the days or weeks to come from the county commission, additional direction, and I think that this may resolve itself.
Okay. Village manager, tabling it, if we said let's at least earmark funds in the budget, does that still fall under the heading of tabling?
Well,
I mean, we could budget money, doesn't mean we're going to spend it.
that is correct. That is correct.
Okay. I think a message that is important for Sheriff Bradshaw to hear from us, and more importantly for the county commissioners to hear from us. We really would like to see this done. Is that a weak consensus on that? We'd like.
We want to see it done.
We want to see it done.
Sure.
All right. I mean, we're committed to that. And that means we're committed in supporting the sheriff and his approach with the commissioners. You can say that we're behind him in that regard with this caveat. I think we should budget something as a contingency. Doesn't mean we're going to spend it. Because I don't want us to get downstream and then, we've got to do budget. Part of our commitment that we want this for our citizens is putting something in a budget. Whether it manifests out of that budget or whether it manifests the way the sheriff wants to do it, which is countywide. And by the way, if he does it countywide, we want to be first. In all seriousness, though, we'd like to, the sooner the better. We'd like to not see this get kicked down the street, the road, and out of this budgeting cycle, because we think it's a now issue, and it's an important issue, and we appreciate the fact that the sheriff wants to do this, he supports it. We really want to see it, make it happen as quickly as possible.
He shares your concerns, trust
Okay.
me, and I think it is a priority.
As far as budgeting, though, I don't think that's necessarily necessary in this point. I mean, I have no problem, expressing our view to the county commission, saying, hey, look, this is something we're 100% behind in the village of Royal Palm Beach. But again, it leads to, if we budget something, it kind of looks like we're putting money in, and we, to me, it looks like, hey, I know we're in, but we want to give money. We're budgeting money for something that, let's say, another municipality can't. And I just think the proper thing, first of all, I don't think from what the major said tonight, it's necessary to the budget, number one. But number two, I do agree with your message that we do need to let the county commissioner know. I'm sure the sheriff knows, and we'll learn from this meeting how committed we are to it. But the fact that we budget money, to me, is not necessary.
All right.
I don't think it's necessary.
I don't either.
I think you were next.
My only other thing was just the same part. Well, along with the budgeting side, are we specifically just District 9, or when it gets to the part of reviewing the material and redacting things, is it going to, here's a pool, and oh, by the way, we're dividing it up amongst everybody? So I don't know if it's so cut and dry that you can say.
I'm not following you.
Well, because are we paying specifically just for District 9 cameras, and then when it goes into reviewing that, are we just paying into no incidences in Royal Palm have to be reviewed for 10 years, for, let's say 3 years. So therefore, we're not paying into that, but the sheriff comes back and says, okay, well, we do need to fund these positions, and this is how much, and it's $3 million for all the video that we've had to look after, and we need all the municipalities to contribute towards that, or a portion towards that. That's what I wanted clarification on.
All right, let me clarify. We have a parallel conversation going on. The one conversation was, as the village, Royal Palm Beach, District 9, we're stepping up saying, hey, what are the numbers? We want body cameras for our 50 sworn officers. We're not asking you to do it for free. We're willing to put the money up. That's one conversation. The other conversation is the Sheriff Bradshaw is saying, no, he'd rather not do a one-off like that. It would be more productive and more effective if he could put this in for the entire county.
Correct.
And he's not asking us to pay for that notion. What he's saying is he's looking to advance funding from the county now for funding that's going to show up that he has coming in later in out years that would be earmarked for technology upgrades. So there's two separate conversations. Okay, don't
That's why I wanted clarification.
Right.
So just to make sure is that we're only looking at our District 9 officers and whatever that dollar amount, whether it's between the $6,000 and the $2,000 per officer, that's what we're looking at.
If we went that route, that's it. We're talking. I think what we're saying is, I thought what I got from all of you was we want to support the approach that the sheriff wants to take, which is let me do it for the whole county, and let me get the money in advance from the county commissioners.
Yes.
We're saying we're supporting that. Okay, so that's a separate conversation.
No. Then yes, we've all agreed.
If you guys are saying, if we're saying is we don't think we need to actually put money in the budget now for the other conversation, fine.
That's where
I'm just letting you all know, if we get to that gate, we'll be doing a revision down the road to the budget if we need to do that.
We
You
understand.
understand that? Okay, fine. Having said that now, would it make a difference if we wrote a formal letter to the county commissioners and the county administrator?
I think that's always helpful to let them know your thoughts, and I'm sure the other, what do we have, 12 or 13 contracted cities will probably do something similar.
Are we okay with doing that? We have a letter put
Absolutely.
together?
Yep.
All right.
Good idea.
in support of the
Supporting
cameras.
what?
Correct.
Yeah, but we're going to indicate in that letter what I just kind of said to you tonight. We really don't want this kicked down the road. We want this now, and we got to make this happen now. So if you've got some language you want to share with us that we should include, please do that. You are Captain Chaos.
We have a conference call Thursday with the Western Communities Council, so maybe you guys can discuss it there.
That's okay. We want to formalize this. I want to memorialize this in writing on behalf of the village, right?
Okay. Yep.
Okay, so
Sounds fine.
we're okay with that?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't wait 14 years or however long it was to come back.
Thanks for coming, Major. We appreciate it. Boy, this is a tough budget, huh?
I think we're through all the tough stuff.
Okay, where are we now? What's next?
The HR, Human Resource Department is next. Monica is right here.
Okay, come on down, or come on up, wherever.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
What page are we on? Thank you.
38 and 39. No significant changes. Just in the projected actual, you can see our numbers went down drastically due to recruiting, hiring, and other services have been stagnated. But hopefully in the next fiscal year, we'll be increasing those numbers back up again and get up and ramping. Some of the numbers that changed, we changed over carriers for our health savings account, which resulted in a huge savings for us in the budget last year and moving forward. And we got it was just found out in the past week, a 0% increase across the board for all of our benefit programs. So that will be very welcome to everybody to hear that.
Good.
Any questions I can answer?
No, I just wanted to say congratulations on the title change.
Thank you.
Yeah, at some point I'll drop by and you can share with me the risk component, how that works.
It's
So as I understand,
There's a lot of risk out here.
she's been
There's a
doing
lot
it
of
all
risk.
along. Now she just gets recognized for it. So
Thank you.
good.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And next is finance.
Next department is planning and zoning. There
I'm
is
sorry.
a significant change in planning and zoning. We did budget dollars for a consultant to come in and work with us up to 20 hours a week.
You doing,
And-
you doing this one?
Yes.
What page?
42.
Thank you. Boy, you're on top of this stuff.
Yep, Bradford is there too. Bradford can answer any questions. And we did delete the development review coordinator from this budget, and there is money in their consultant for up to 20 hours a week. And I believe Bradford is online and can answer any questions you may have,
Bradford, are you there?
add to it.
Okay. We can't hear you. You're a little garbled.
Okay.
It sounds like Martian. Martian language.
Okay, finance after that. I think we'll move on.
We'll move right on. Thanks, Bradford.
Nice.
I'll be a little clearer. 47.
Thank you.
My budget actually went down 3.4%. There really are no changes whatsoever. But I'll entertain any questions.
How'd you manage the decrease without any changes?
Health insurance.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next is
Non-departmental, page 82.
which page?
82. The budget remained relatively stagnant. It went down a third of 1%. Most of the costs are just extrapolated based on projected actual for the year. And that's it. Okay.
Questions? Jan, are you following us? You okay?
We're going to go to information IS. Marina is here.
That's the sort. There she is.
There she is right there. We do have an optimization study that we talked about. It's a strategic planning that we did not get in here, but we are going to add it between now and October 1st. Other than that, there are
Optimization-
increases in the
Optimization study, what is that?
looking at our IS operation, looking at all the software that we're using, how the
Okay.
staff is using the software,
Good.
how the software is integrated with all the different software that we have, and optimizing that. There is, because we have Marina would be best to answer this. I think we have over like 110 different software packages that we're using, and several of them integrate with each other. And one of the big ones that she's putting on this year is Project Docs. They have training in August on that, and which is a significant process change to our development review process. So that study we are going to be putting into the budget before the October 1st, or before the budget hearings in September. Other than that, Marina's here to answer any questions you may have in the IS department.
What page, Marina? 49?
Yeah.
Hi.
Okay. Hey.
How you hanging in here with all of these virtual
Okay.
meetings?
First of all, I want to apologize for the technical difficulties, but one thing that I have noticed is as they use more and more of those online meetings, some of the telephone numbers that they give me with those meetings are not valid. I experienced that this afternoon.
So is the software, the system that we use for people to call in, are not valid?
No, correct. It seems that they're saturating those numbers,
Okay.
and somehow some of those numbers are not working as well. And I have experienced that today and previously. With once in a while, they give out a phone number that goes with a specific meeting.
Right.
But at the same time, you call that number and you're not really connecting, and it becomes invalid, and then it creates a whole chain of issues. And I believe that was part of the problem that we had today with an invalid number. But nevertheless, I apologize that we had a delay to the meeting. As far as the IS budget, the only increase to this budget, other than what Ray just mentioned, that we added some professional services there. And what that professional service is going to be is basically a business optimization, where they're going to evaluate our investments in hardware and software, and see how we can best use what we already invested on to optimize processes in other departments. But it expands a little bit more to that, in the sense that they're going to look into the processes of each department and see how they can improve some of their processes that may not be totally related to the software that they're using. So we can expand that study a little bit more than just analyzing hardware and software. As far as the other increase in my budget, it was like around 6%, and that's customary when it comes to hardware and software contracts, maintenance contracts, and also I'm adding some new licensing this year to upgrade our servers to 2016, which is going to support a more robust login, where we're going to use biometrics instead of just passwords, which is becoming outdated.
Those passwords, I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. Finally, yes, we need something a little bit more robust than just simple passwords. So we're going to use biometrics devices.
Okay.
Interesting.
And any questions?
Any questions? Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you
Good luck with your optimization review.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
for keeping up with us virtually.
And listen, part of the problems tonight was this Tuesday night. That Thursday. That was part of it. Rob, can you hear us?
I'm sorry, I didn't have my microphone on. Community development is next. It's on page 60, and Rob Hill is on the phone.
Rob, can you hear us? Hello, Rob. Are you want to translate?
He said his budget is fine.
Okay. All right.
made some small adjustments in our service delivery that are reflected in our budget as we've reduced our code enforcement staff by one. And you'll see the reclassification of our administrative assistant to the senior administrative assistant position. This budget does reflect resources enough to adjust to the challenges that we have for this year. And moving forward, if you have any questions, please give them to me.
Rob, I'm sorry, but we are having a very difficult time hearing you. I'll just summarize the code enforcement. In the building department, actually, the building department budget is a little bit less than last year. They are the ones that are going through the most significant change with the project docs, and they have been spending this last year, spending an awful lot of time setting up those processes and setting up that software and ready to go live right before the end of this budget year. In code enforcement, we did another COVID-19 effect. We did reduce from 3 to 2 code enforcement officers plus the supervisor, and that is reflected in the code enforcement budget.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Thanks, Rob.
Engineering is next. That's Chris Marsh, and he is present. He is on page
64.
Can you hear me?
Page 64.
He's the only one dressed up, too.
The only changes with engineering are kind of a residual from what happened last year. We transitioned GIS intern into a GIS tech. And basically that was the only change in the engineering department.
Public Works is next. Paul is over here, and Paul has the page number opened up to, and it's page...
Chris, hold it. I do have
Oh,
one
I'm sorry.
question. There was a report recently I saw in the news that they claim the analysis that was done of properties in Palm Beach County that were in jeopardy of being in floodplain was not accurate. Do you know anything about that?
I did not see that.
Okay. All right.
Well, we're good, right?
Well, that's the question. Yeah, I hope we're good. Yeah.
Oh, they're definitely on the coast. With the new coastal study, there are more properties that are going to be impacted by that new study coming out. So that might have been it.
The report was saying that there were more properties that were in jeopardy than actually were defined, so that they that's determined the number of properties that really were impacted in terms of being a flood zone.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we're going to be kind of chasing our tail with that as we have global warming and sea level rise on the coast. You're going to continue to see more
It's
problems.
definitely it's a moving target.
It is a moving target, but
Okay.
the good thing about where we're at is Royal Palm won't see those impacts for quite some time. So.
Yeah, they claim that some of the elevations that were used as the elevation assumptions weren't accurate either. So okay.
We spent a lot of time when FEMA was doing,
know you
and
did,
their
yeah.
consultants were doing our maps, and we worked with them, and we feel that the maps that we have are as accurate as you can get for right now. When you talk about sea level rise and the effects that they have on the coast, we looked at that also, and because the way we're separated with the gate at State Road 7, there needs to be just a little over 7 feet of sea level rise before we're affected, our flood levels are changing significantly. Yes.
It's not a lot, but okay.
That was 4 years ago or 5 years ago, that number. So I haven't looked at it recently. Actually, the federal government took down that website where you were able to come up with those
We took
numbers.
it down. Yeah. Thanks, Chris. I'm sorry. What page do you want?
We can start on page 70, Public Works operating budget. And when we're through with that, we'll move to the stormwater budget. On page 70, the department, you'll find the department description, the major goals and objectives for the department. Those haven't changed, so I won't go into them unless anyone has a question. 71, it outlines the major budget service level changes. As Stan outlined earlier, we did have an addition of one custodial position, a reclassification of general maintenance worker 1 to a maintenance worker 2 in our grounds division, and reclassification of our administrative assistant 2 to a senior administrative assistant in public works. The budget itself starts on page 72. This budget is essentially flat from the FY20 budget. The only changes are changes in personal services, and then we did have change from the last budget in our 4650, our maintenance contracts, and we have made a budget change to 4680 and 4685, which is sidewalks and roads and bridges, the R&M numbers. Essentially, other than that, it's a flat budget. The machinery and equipment that we have budgeted under 6499 is part of our long-term capital replacement for all our equipment in the department. That was part of our strategic planning several years ago. We had incorporated that. And with that said about this budget, I'll take any questions.
Any questions? No questions. Thanks, Paul.
All right.
Keep up the work.
The stormwater, if you could turn over to page 89. On page 89 is the department description, goals and objectives. Those haven't changed. And we have no major budget service level changes in this budget. The budget that you have before you is represent about a 6.3 overall increase of the budget, and primarily that's in personal services.
Question about this is our stormwater program.
This is our stormwater utilities.
Are we at full capacity? Is there more capacity we need to have to be where we need to be?
What do you mean by we have a deficit? We do have homes that flood.
Right.
So what we do is we manage what we have to the best of our ability.
Okay. Is there?
Did I answer the question?
Yeah. Well, it does. I guess, is there a place you want to get to in terms of our capability, or are we all where we are?
When you look at our system, we have our system of canals was originally designed to provide and provides the pollution abatement. In significant flooding, comes from elsewhere. It comes from the C51 canal, and it comes from Indian Trails Improvement District. Now, Indian Trails, we've got some really very stringent rules, and during storms, it's managed right to measuring the gates and what's coming through and all that. There's not excess capacity in our system.
Okay.
And why I can say that is because when FEMA did their study and did have some houses flooding, there's no way that the only way you could change that is either raise the home or create more capacity for the water to go to, and we don't have that for it to go there. So we manage what we have.
Do we know what our recovery time is on those instances where that would happen?
Do what?
The recovery time.
We have
water to go down.
Yes, our Amalgate is designed to flow. It's got some of the highest capacity in this area. I think it's.
That's what I thought.
I think it's. If I remember right, Chris might remember. Up to 3 inches a day. 3.5 inches a day.
Okay.
2.5 inches a day.
I like 3 better, but okay.
we can round it up to 3.
Okay.
So
no.
I was just going to ask you, I see equipment over on Royal Palm Beach Boulevard in 2 locations, but bridges. Is that work being done on the bridge, or is that some...
That work is being done under the bridge, redoing the...
Bridge stabilization?
That's correct.
Yeah, slope stabilization, whatever you call it. Okay, I was just wondering. We did get some money last year, I think, the year before, if I remember correctly, to do some canal work. Are we doing anything in that regard?
Chris is here. I think it's to do that. We've got a grant to do the drainage up on under the power lines.
Okay.
I know Chris has that in the capital budget.
That's what that money was
I
for.
think that's his next drainage project and drainage money. I think.
There's actually two projects. We have a $250,000 grant for the ponds that we would create some additional capacity under the power lines, and there's $500,000 for dredging. So a total of $750,000. Two separate grants.
Do we have to match those grants?
No, we don't.
Okay.
But
Really-
we have budgeted to match them.
Okay.
The dredging project has $1 million in it. The 250 is not matched.
Okay. We have any idea when we're going to be doing the dredging?
We're actively designing that, and we're looking at going to submitting a permit to South Florida Water Management this month. So within the next 2 to 3 months, we should be advertising for that. So 4 to 5 months.
How long is that grant good for?
It's a 2-year grant.
Okay. All we have to do is get the money obligated on a contract kind of a thing, and that counts.
And they've given us extensions when we need them. The good news about the dredging project, it's a relatively quick process. So, and what we plan on doing is combining the two projects, the digging project and the dredging, so you could actually pump the water into that area and then have them take that fill along with the fill for the ponds out at all in one kind of project to make it more efficient and on both ends.
Okay. Probably more effective too. The results. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Next is
Capital budget, Chris.
Dun, dun.
Oh no! Wait, no. Sorry, Chris. Lou, I forgot Lou. I forgot Lou over here.
How could you forget Lou? Is Lou
I
here?
don't know.
Yeah, I thought I saw him come in. What page, Lou?
Lou's under Parks and Rec there, under Utility Fund. Ah.
Sorry about that. Again, Stanley went through the personnel changes and the reductions that we've had to account for due to the pandemic that we've been hit with. The Parks Department, Parks Division, which is page 75 and 76, is pretty much status quo. Haven't been any drastic changes there. The Recreation Division has gotten hit pretty hard. Again, we've eliminated a lot of programs for the remainder of all the year, and looking at it in the springtime. Contract services and everything, which are all of our instructors and personnel for those programs. The supplies, which are under commodities, and that's basically for athletic programs. Account number 5222. Those are all the supplies. You can see has gone down about $30,000 because again, those programs won't be running. Senior programs, supplies. Senior programs are pretty going to be eliminated for the year. Although their board of directors will be meeting on a regular basis because they do want to keep in touch and see what's happening.
We're talking about the Young at Hearts, right?
The Young at Heart, correct. But they understand what we're doing. They understand they can't be meeting as a group and having the luncheons and everything. So that's had a drastic impact on the budget. Then we had the Cultural Division. The Cultural Division is basically all of our community events.
the four major events that we've eliminated. And again, we'll look at it later in the year when things change and see what adjustments we have to make. But pretty much everything from now on has been eliminated. And if you have any questions, I mean, overall, we have a reduction of 7.77%. Any questions? I'll be glad to.
Real quick, on page 75, number of parks, did we lose a park?
We lost the park?
Did we lose a
I believe that's the park that went to the church across from the Willows Park, Marcelo.
Okay. Okay. That's what. Okay, that was That was one of the. That was marked as a park, but that was that property. Okay. My other question is, I know it's very, very new, but I saw the cameras going in this afternoon. Do you have anything that you can say about that?
Yeah, those are the. PBSO had gotten a grant for the scanners for it measures the temperature of people when they're walking into the facility. Yes, we've got them set up in the cultural center and as well as the recreation center. Right now they're up on tripods and they'll be permanently installed on Saturday. So when people do walk in, it will actually scan them at eye level. And if their temperature is 100.4 or greater, an alarm will go off, a light will go on, and we will stop those folks from entering the facility.
And I think you said both at the cultural center and at the rec center?
Yes.
What's their timeline on that?
It's, like I said, they're up and running right now, but they're temporarily just sitting on tripods. But they're going to be installed permanently Saturday morning.
Oh, okay.
So Monday, actually, like at the rec center with the camp counselors out taking each individual child's temperature, they won't have to do that.
So then there'll be a staff member at the entrance between the rec center and the cultural center, just directing everyone to come in.
Exactly. They'll be sitting at that front counter.
So there's a protocol if the alarm goes off?
They're stopped, and they'll be asked to leave the facility.
All right, now, okay. We can talk offline about that, but okay, good. I think that's a good thing.
Okay. Any other questions?
Did you any plans to put it in any other, create this technology at other facilities, or this is pretty much it for us right now? Okay.
So the three locations we talked about, it was the
Leaves Cultural Center and the Parks and Recreation, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Lou.
Thank you.
Good work. And now we have the capital budget. We should be looking at this. Chris? This one? Okay. It's because he needs a haircut. I can't talk, though. I need one, too. Really? Now leave Richard alone. Now, he wasn't bothering you.
You get to take off the mask, so that's nice. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I am going to present the Capital Improvement Program for fiscal years 21 through 25. first slide that we're seeing is a summary of our 6 funds. We have a total revenue of $25.4 million and a total expenditures of $22.4 million. The first fund is the Rec Facilities Fund, which is limited to the acquisition, improvement, expansion, or implementation of parks and recreation facilities. There's 2 existing projects that were in there. If you have questions concerning those, I'll be happy to field those. If not, I'll move on. But they were existing projects in the budget. Next fund is the Community Beautification Fund 102. The fund is limited to projects that enhance the aesthetic, landscape, and visual perception of the village. And this one has an existing project for Okeechobee Boulevard landscape improvements in there, which is to the west of Crestwood Boulevard on Okeechobee. The next project or fund is the 301 Fund. Revenues for the fund come from all new development. Expenditures are limited to new roads, public parks, and public buildings. And we're going to skip these slides, correct?
Yes.
Shorten my presentation by half. and then we come to the Village Hall. Got to do it twice, right? Village Hall and site modification. And what this project is this is an additional approximately $3 million to repurpose this building. And once we add the council chambers to the new proposed building, which is part of this money. And the reason you're seeing the money in 2 different funds is because the limitations on these funds, because we can only use the 301 fund for the new portions of the building and site. So the additional square footage, we could use that money to create, and the new facilities that we're going to create on the campus, we could use this money to accomplish those. Some of the additions to the project are the plaza that's going to be created between this building and the new building. That it'll be kind of a dual-purpose plaza, if you will, where we can have green market events there. It's going to be designed in a manner that will have a nice, potentially some type of reflecting pool in there, some nice public art features, and no wheel stops or any type of tripping hazards. So on the weekends, you could bring in a market and people would come in there and the kids could play in that area. It's no longer a parking lot. The other things on the site, we're going to be adding some additional light, creating some new pathway connections to make the site more accessible to bike and pedestrian traffic. New site signage, monument signs, and wayfinding signs on the site. And some of the benefits for this new building and advantages of building a new building versus expanding the building are, with the new building, you talked about flooding earlier. We have an opportunity to build this building higher and the parking facilities surrounding it higher, which will reduce the probability of those buildings going underwater in one of these flood events. We get to build it stronger. It'll be a larger building, and by moving the council chambers into that building, suddenly you have kind of a dual-purpose council chambers, because that could act as our EOC headquarters within that facility, and obviously it could be used better used for day-to-day business that's happening within inside the building. And I guess the important thing is when we're going to begin. Right now, the current schedule, which the site plan is going to be coming to you next meeting, actually, for your approval, which is a good thing, but it's exactly on the predicted path. So we're not ahead of schedule. We fell a little bit behind at the initial COVID thing, and our consultants will talk about the schedule at that next meeting, and they're going to be looking for ways to beat the predicted date, which is August of 2021 actually breaking ground. And keep in mind, even because this is a substantial project, we're going to advertise, we're going to get somebody on board. There's a process even to go through our own building department where there's a lot of submittals and time associated with getting from that point of awarding a contract to actually going under construction. But the current predicted date is August 2021, with the Phase 1 completion February of 2023, and then the Phase 2 completion, and understanding the different phases. The first phase would be build the new building, we occupy that building, and then the second phase would be demolishing the existing building and building the plaza and parking. And that's what we're predicting in December of 2023.
May I say thank you for finding a location for Councilwoman Radusky's sculpture?
Did you catch that?
That's his muscular. I don't know if that's real.
I'm going to blame that on my boss. He made me put that in there. So. Yes, she's strutting in the courtyard there. So, do you have any other questions about this project?
No, it sounds like it's moving along very well. You okay with the way it's moving so far?
I am. Okay. I was talking to Ray about it. We did have a COVID issue already. We had a survey crew come out and soft dig for utilities, and somebody in the crew got COVID-19. The whole crew got shut down.
Wow.
So that is something that we could experience as
where
we
we
move
are.
forward.
That's where we are right now. Okay. Any questions? Other questions? No more questions about the art? No.
The next slide are all existing projects. If you have any questions,
This
the individual
I
projects.
I think you covered this. The Commons lighting. That's where is that again in Commons?
Commons lighting is going to light, and actually that's going to be on the council agenda for next week for award. That will be the bigger Musco-style lights. It will light up the proposed the parking lots that we're going to be expanding out there, and the dog park. And this allows, excuse me?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it allows us to not have to use the temporary lighting, and it'll save us
That's
costs
out there
on
now.
that.
Okay.
And then obviously the added benefit of
Okay.
having more parking space under light and the dog park available during the winter months when it's nice.
You think
to go
that'll
out
help
there.
us empty the parking lot faster when we have these big events? Whenever we have them again?
No, I don't. But I think
Okay.
it'll make it safer to get to your car because it will be better light. So.
Okay, we'll go with that. Good. Celia? A Skytram?
Actually, Lou does have a project in here for getting trolleys, which will help our residents get in and out of the event.
No, that's hey, we got to think, was there a project, maybe it's not on this list, about you're going to do a lighting of the
Pathway, which is included in this commons lighting. I'm sorry.
That is in this?
I forgot to mention that,
Okay.
yeah. And that is not actually coming for award next meeting. It'll be a couple months later behind that. But we had an opportunity because with Bob Marcello lighting, exact same type of lighting, we're able to issue a change order with the contractor at a good price, and we're going to bring that to you to go ahead and get that done now.
Okay. Any other questions? No?
The next fund is the Local Discretionary Sales Surtax Fund 302. The fund is limited to projects that include the construction, reconstruction, or improvements of public facilities that have a life expectancy of 5 or more years. And what this slide is showing, I apologize, it's a little busy, but Commons is a big facility. What we're proposing with this funding is to go to residents and look to purchase easements, not what we've done in the past where we look to purchase homes and demolish the homes. This would be looking for kind of where they have large areas between their homes, and there would be an opportunity to put a pathway through there and just actually purchase that from a resident that would be willing to do that. So on the north end, there is an opportunity. Kind of on the southwest end, there will be a connection point. And then if you look on the east end, on the Heron Parkway, what we're proposing there is to create on-street a pathway that would take you all the way to the east, ultimately to the existing pathway along Business Parkway and then into Counterpoint, and then potentially go for a grant to get a pedestrian bridge across there at Bob White. So
That's the dotted green line?
yeah, that would be the dotted green, correct. And then there's also a connection proposed into Counterpoint, kind of near Home Place Park. You see how that goes straight in there, a little bit further to the south. Now, the next two slides are an overview of the village's comprehensive bicycle plan. There have been some additions to that. But and the other thing we did is we mimicked the TPA's look, the Transportation Planning Agency, their symbology. We went ahead and used that, which makes it easier for us when we're applying for grants. So it looks a little different in the past, only because we changed the colors of the different pathways designations on the map. This is the south half of the village, and then this next slide is kind of zooming in on the Southern Boulevard properties. And you can see that there is one section already that has been constructed along Tuttle Boulevard, and then we have planned on and off street bike and pedestrian ways throughout his site, interconnecting Southern Boulevard and State Road 7, and obviously the commercial and the residential that would be part of that, and also connection to that 10-acre park down at the southeast corner of his site, which there is an opportunity to actually connect to Anthony Groves if they would entertain that, and it obviously be a combination of them and the Lakeport Drainage District to make it a nice shortcut into the park directly from their neighborhood.
Who's driving that issue, the developer, or is that something you're doing?
That would be something that we would pursue.
We would pursue? Okay.
They're a matter of a couple months. They're going to dedicate it to us, and then they have to do some improvements to that, and then obviously it would be our park after that point. So probably about a year or so, and we would obviously look to make easy connections for those neighboring properties. The next slides are the road resurfacing. There was a couple changes to this, but it's pretty much the same. In this slide, you're looking at the Saratoga Pines neighborhood, and then on the right-hand side is a portion of La Mancha.
Chris, real quick to go back, with the road resurfacing, we still have the link on our website, so residents can go on there, and is that updated in real time so they can?
And we actually are updating it for this because it had the projects we just completed on there, so it will be updated. It's a nice dynamic map where you can zoom in and out and see. You can actually type your address in, and it'll take you to that. You can click on the line, and it'll tell you the year that it's going to resurface. So it's a pretty nice map that's right on the engineering homepage. This next section is the Willows, and this is the Crestwood PUD area and Park Road north and south, Sparrow Drive, Royal Palm Beach Boulevard, south of Okeechobee. Do you have any other questions on the resurfacing? This is a pretty big list, so if you see something you want to discuss.
Where's the project for the cultural center? What is it? Drive
That's
under?
coming.
So then on there you have the La Mancha Avenue extension.
Yes.
And
And that's been in the budget for the last couple of years.
Right.
But it's pushed out.
2.6 million, 2.625?
But is that the one then, so if we have Royal Palm Beach Boulevard, La Mancha Avenue heading south, that is going to connect with Okeechobee and the controlled intersection?
Correct. And the benefit of that project would be it would create a safe crossing for our FBL bike path corridor. Because did just make a connection at Partridge, but because of the county refuses to create a crossing kind of on the east side of the intersection, you actually have to cross the road 4 different times to get back to the pathway. So or 3 different times. So it's not a great connection right now.
No, and that would be not only the bike path, but the road itself.
The road itself would, and those signals can be timed. They could be interconnected. So you wouldn't lose efficiency on Okeechobee Boulevard by having that. Actually, it could help with efficiency because the majority of the traffic is going east in the morning, so you could time those signals to kind of balance the capacity coming out of La Mancha.
The Project 1909, the all-access playground, didn't we lose funding? Was that vetoed by the governor? So what is that? What are we going to put this on hold until we reapply or something?
We'll reapply again. We'll keep trying.
Okay, keep trying. It was there, but then it wasn't.
Then we come to the 303 fund. This is our general fund, and the money doesn't have any type of restrictions on it. The first project is the traffic security cameras. These are cameras that are actually capable of reading license plates as the vehicles are going by. We have 6 locations. The locations are placed to basically cover every inlet and outlet for the village.
These were the recommendations we got from PBSL?
Yes. There is an annual maintenance cost of about $40,000 for the monitoring service, but they are very effective, and they're not just used for crime. When you have silver alerts, amber alerts, those type of alerts, that they have the ability to plug those license plates in quickly and locate those people. So, and there's been a good success rate with that. ADA Improvement Phase 2, we actually just got some bad news on the funding for this, but they are going to look for funding. There's basically transportation alternative funding is what we applied for. That pot didn't have enough money. We qualified for it, but there just wasn't enough money to fill our needs for the project. They said they're going to look for local initiative funding, so hopefully we'll get that. The downside for that, it'll push the project back a few years.
Who's this coming from?
TPA, Transportation
It is TPA,
Planning
that's
Agency.
right,
Yeah. This next project is for a corporate picnic pavilion. What we're proposing is about, on the right-hand side of the slide, I'm showing one of the larger existing pavilions that are in the back corners of the site. This will be about 6 times bigger at 40 by 100. It'll be located closer to parking areas, which will, for these larger events where they have to bring in a lot of stuff, it'll make it more convenient for them. In that area, as you can see in the picture, it's kind of on the northeast side of the sporting center. So they'll be pretty close to the sporting center and that playground just to the south of them. This is another security camera project. Robner Park, Bob Marcello, and Barron Park. This project is for solar-powered gates. This will basically make automatic gates in lieu of a Parks and Rec person going to the gate and physically opening and closing it. The gates will do that automatically, which will be nice, and they're going to be located at Commons and Royal Pines Natural Area. This project is a gazebo, 12 by 12 gazebo at Home Place Park. And here it is, Mr. Mayor.
Ta-da!
This would be your porte-cochere and a wedding pavilion. I don't know if you remember, there used to be a dock kind of located in the preserve area. This would create an area where people could get married, or if they wanted to take pictures, there'll be a backdrop of the trees there.
Okay, now we're showing 0 expenditures for 21. This is not, what's the timeline to get this project going? 24? What can we do to push it up for this fiscal year? What would you have to do that?
Well, if you found something that was 300 grand that was in this year and flipped the two, you could do that.
Well, we already came up with 100 grand. Or is that a different pot of money that we can't use?
What was the 100?
The
La Mancha.
La Mancha.
Yeah,
Madrid.
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 I don't know where that was funded.
It was in there. I don't know. No, it's in this fiscal year.
How much for that beach
This
stadium?
fiscal year. That was the whole
At
point.
the comments, how much is the beach deal?
Hold on a
There you
second.
go, right there. The beach deal, the beach at comments.
Beach.
Get rid of that thing, and there we go. They got a much better
Chris,
cover.
what was the corporate pavilion? 350?
Oh, what an opportunist.
You got to at least wait to see the beach slide. I think we
Saw it
came up with a
already.
slide.
We saw it last year. Although this is
No,
better.
this
I
is-
will tell
this-
you, this
this
is
is-
much better than last
All
year.
right, stop it. Will you?
That's spoiler
It's okay.
alert.
The alligators won't eat anybody if we put up signs.
Oh,
Anyway,
so the corporate pavilion is 350.
can
right?
we ask Ray that you look at what you can do to come up with the funding from another initiative so that this can be moved up to be funded for this fiscal year?
I heard Jeff
Yeah,
comment.
so I just offered you one. 350 for
Corporate.
the corporate pavilion.
Okay, so wait a second though. So if you look at that, when is that
Where's the
projected to be
That was in next
completed?
year's budget.
So, but then what kind of revenue would we generate from renting it out that then
Right
can help
now?
fund? Not right now,
Yeah.
right now. But if it's built, it's generating revenue.
You would lose that. You would lose that.
I'm sorry, what?
You would obviously lose that if we didn't build
Right.
it.
What I'm saying is then take the revenue from that and then put it up in the budget to move this project up higher.
If the council wants to move it, I mean, we'll go back and look at the budget and see
You'll go
what we
back
can
and
do if
figure
that's
out
what, if
what's
that's
the best way to
council's
do it, right?
desire. I don't know where Chris
So
is
we-
at. I mean, even if we put it in if we put it in next year's budget, it still has to be designed and put into the program and bid out. So it'd be, we obviously would be getting on that sooner rather than later.
Is that our consensus?
Right now, it's 2024.
I believe
Yeah, it's
so, yes.
2024.
Right, Chris?
That's like,
What's the number? It was
I'm tired of residents
Or
asking me,
2401.
why did you guys do this when you
Yeah, it's in
redesign?"
2024.
24. Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing if we can move it up.
Well, the pavilions are generating revenue.
Yeah,
We
no,
didn't-
that's a good point.
We didn't say we're giving up the pavilion right now. He's going to look into, they're going to figure out,
Well, and understand there is some logic to where these are in the budget process because
Absolutely.
we have a construction schedule and there's
know-
a whole
I
bunch of
understand
projects.
that.
So
No,
if
I
we
know
want
it
to
wasn't-
move something out, to,
no, I know it wasn't
in
arbitrary. That's
schedule,
why
so-
I'm saying you can't make a snap decision on what you would move now. You need to look at the whole ripple effect of doing that. And I understand that.
When I look at the 303 fund, I mean, we budgeted up all but $43,000. In 2022, we're short 107,000. So, so something has to be moved
Yeah.
to do that.
Okay.
So,
You guys will figure that out.
well, no,
We have to tell them how to figure it out.
No,
you have to. What do you want me to move?
Right.
You got the list right here. It's
but you want us to do that
go to
tonight?
page
or you-
131. Go to
Oh.
page 131
Which, in the
in the
binder.
binder. On page 131.
So you're saying you want us to tell you what to do?
Well, we
What's the
zeroed
move?
it. We zeroed it out.
We're moving.
We zeroed it out.
What number is it?
If you go on page 131, it's PR 2401 Cultural Center entrance. $300,000 is in 2024. So to bring it to 2021, you got to take $300,000.
Am I on the right page? Page 131?
Yeah.
2401 is harvester equipment.
PR1. PR 20.
I'm sorry,
Go up.
PW. Okay, PR. Got it. All right.
So there's only one project on that page that's that's 300, and that's the pavilions. We could take the security cameras are 150.
Now, we want the security cameras to happen, definitely.
that's the only list that you got to look at.
So have we had demands? I mean, are people asking from a corporate point of view? Do you all have a place where we can?
For the corporate pavilions?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
No, come on.
The question was being asked, Lou, have we had requests for the corporate pavilion? Who have you talked to? No, do you remember? Do you know what corporations you talked to? I think you told me. You told me FBL.
Lou, there's a mic.
The hospital.
There's a mic right behind you. There's a mic right behind you.
There's a. Step away from the chair.
Yeah. Okay.
If you want to keep this, you're going to have to get up.
Anyway, yes, FP&L has been interested. Palms West Hospital has been interested. Those are the two that I can recall off the top of my head. But and there's a lot of family reunion, a lot of families that have looked for places for having reunions that we can't house them unless they go inside, like the sporting center or the cultural center.
Even that little beer garden-like area out behind the sporting center there?
That's not waterproof.
No.
Yeah, that's what?
Yeah.
That's not waterproof.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then we have packaged a wedding package that includes that, so we can't really
Can't
set
just
that
toss
aside.
it out. What have you thought about, at least temporarily, to solidify that potential business opportunity of putting up a big tent, high-end tent?
I haven't thought about it for this purpose.
You know, tents those sizes are like $50,000 to rent them.
Okay, $50,000. We got $300,000 left over. We can use that.
But that's a one-time rental. I'm sorry, that's a one-time rental. Each time you want to do it, it's.
I don't see anything that.
Okay, let's leave it.
Just to again, the experience out at Commons is people are forced to go out and rent a number of the pavilions and trying to get them all into a group, and it's kind of difficult. It's kind of difficult for them to do that. So they end up going out to Okehili.
Oh, so you're trying to tell us we're losing business to the county park?
Lots of business.
We want to be better than that.
So it's not just corporate interests; it's like large gatherings of any sort.
Right. Because we can't accommodate them.
I guess we have no choice but at least for now table it. But we ask you to put your thinking cap on, village manager, and come back to us downstream. I think we all agree we'd like to do what we can to see if we can move this project, make it sooner rather than later. Leave it at that. Okay, Lou, you can go back. I know you were meditating. Okay.
The next project is Camellia Park renovations. This would involve resurfacing the 6 tennis courts and replacing the court lighting with LED lighting and replacing the restroom there. That's much need of that happening, and then also the tennis pros office.
Those
is
courts
part
in
of
bad
that.
shape?
Bathroom facility is.
It's just it's a matter of time before the courts are going to wear out and they have to be resurfaced. So. This is Richard's project. The beach.
Yeah,
at
but there's
Royal
no
Palm Beach
money, so I'm
Commons.
good with no money.
So, what this is that existing, which is almost a submerged island out there. This would be bringing in beach-like sand and then putting a barrier around it to prevent people from swimming in there. So we could put riprap around there, which would serve two purposes because it would hold the sand in that area. We could
You
put
don't have
some
the
nice.
picture. You're not doing it justice.
Chris, did you move it? Or is it
Oh,
frozen?
sorry. I'm sorry.
There you
I
go. There you go.
apologize.
Nice hammock.
It looks like an island, though, doesn't it? It looks nice.
That's not a real pic. That's not real, right?
That is. That's it. That's a real picture.
I'm saying it's not our property.
What do you mean?
This picture. This whole picture.
Oh, the hammock is not, no, but the picture of the island with the outlines is, yes.
All right.
This next project is an in-house project for Public Works to systematically replace the existing lights with LED fixtures. Some areas poles. This map represents the estimated time frame as we move from year to year, and obviously that's going to be based on their ability to do that in-house, so it could vary. But that is a rough schedule of where we're looking to go in the next 5 years.
It does look very nice on Okeechobee in the evenings now, all the way to State Road 7, so thank you.
Makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
We've gotten a lot of positive feedback about those lights, I got to tell you.
And the TPA helped us out with that one. So
Yes, they did.
We got a lot of grant funding for that. This next project is for a crosswalk beacon. What you have right now is you have crossing guards at these locations, and they're having to cross children across Crestwood Boulevard. So this will bring some attention to those crosswalks, which we think will be a good thing.
Okay, and I guess that's something that local municipalities have to take care of. It
Yes.
wouldn't be the school district. Okay, that's definitely an improvement for safety. Yes.
And if you have any questions on the next couple of slides. PR 2106 is the passenger tram tugs that we spoke about earlier for Commons Park. And that brings us to the Stormwater Capital Improvement Fund 408. Income and expenses for this fund are for operating the village's stormwater system. And there's a project in there for Camellia Park drainage improvements, which will be drainage improvements for the parking lot, the area near the existing restroom, and potentially modifying the drainage ditch between Seminole Palms Park and Camellia Park to make it a better connection there. That concludes my presentation.
Any questions? Jan, any questions? Good? Jeff, good? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for showing up in person. All right, I think that concludes then all of the departmental budget presentations. Is there anything else anyone else would like to add? And since we're doing this, this is remote, I'm going to ask, I never close public comments on this evening, so Ray, are there any hands raised from people who are?
I didn't see any last time I looked. Nope.
No? Okay, seeing none, then I'm going to close public comment on this budget meeting. Now, what's the next step for the budget, Ray?
We'll budget hearing September. I have the calendar here. Right. 8th. Yeah, I've got the budget. Oh, here it is. Says to be determined. When's our first budget? When is it? The 8th and the 17th. So September 8th. September 8th and September 17th will be our first and second reading of the budget hearing. We will bring back to you the budget with these changes, and Stan will do his summary presentation.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? As soon as the letter that we want to get produced, we appreciate if we get that done as soon as we can.
Okay.
Okay. And you got any questions, you can ask me offline on that. And if there are no further questions, thank you all this evening for participating and being here. Thank all of you who are out there. Thank you, Jan. And okay. Have a good evening. We stand adjourned, everyone. Thank you.